Major funding for KPBS Evening Edition has been made possible in part by Bill Howe Family of Companies, providing San Diego with plumbing, heating and air, restoration, flood and remodeling services for over 40 years. Call 1-800-BILL-HOWE or visit billhowe.com. And by the Conrad Prebys Foundation, Darlene Marco Shiley, and by the following. By viewers like you. Thank you.
Right now, a transit strike is leaving many people in San Diego without a ride. Thanks for joining us. I'm Maya Trabulsi. MTS minibus and paratransit access services stopped running today. KPBS reporter John Carroll tells us this may be just the start of labor troubles.
Trolley service and most MTS bus service is not affected by this strike. The work stoppage only covers minibus and paratransit services, along with 14 bus routes in the South Bay. The drivers on those routes work for First Transit. That's the company that operates those services for MTS. This whole thing actually began more than 100 miles from San Diego in El Centro.
The number one concern is from our members is the treatment from their management staff.
Jaime Vasquez is the secretary-treasurer and principal officer of Teamsters Local 542, which represents the drivers. He sent us these pictures of striking workers in El Centro. He says working conditions for employees there are deplorable. Vasquez says employees are forced to work 4 hours on, 2 hours off, and then another 4 hours, and get paid for 8 hours. And Vasquez says wages are very low.
$15.60 an hour. I mean, it's just ridiculous. And having to wait over 20 years to get to top rate. And that top rate, it's only $23 an hour.
Some Teamsters here are walking picket lines at MTS facilities in solidarity. We reached out to First Transit for comment. They provided a statement which says First Transit is actively negotiating with Teamsters 542 and remains hopeful that we will come to an amicable resolution soon. And they're currently working through the union to schedule the next bargaining session. So the two sides are not currently talking, and Vasquez says this current strike may be just the tip of the iceberg. He says Teamsters Local 683, that covers MTS yard workers in Chula Vista, is going into negotiations tomorrow, and there's more. Vasquez says other MTS drivers in San Diego who are covered by a different contract have also authorized a strike.
Everything could, blow up, and all of a sudden you have entire San Diego crippled because we may all be on strike as well.
We have a link on our website for more information on which routes are affected. MTS says First Transit is working on filling the drivers' positions with temporary fill-ins. But for now, many disabled San Diegans, along with senior riders who rely on MTS minibus service and paratransit, may be out of luck when it comes to getting to where they need to go. John Carroll, KPBS News.
Oceanside is planning to redevelop the local transit station into a space for more than just transportation. KPBS North County reporter Tanya Thorne says tonight neighbors are invited to share their thoughts on the plans.
Changes are on the horizon for the Oceanside Transit Center. Over 500 new apartments, a luxury boutique hotel, more parking and retail space, and a modernization of the train and bus systems that currently operate through the center. But not everyone is happy about the changes, like Jennifer McGarren, who rents a house next to the project site.
There's a possibility that if they offered enough for this piece, it would be included in this, right?
She says her housing could be in jeopardy because for the right price, her landlords would consider selling.
So if you hold out, eventually it's going to be like the Up House. Like, who's going to want to live here next to this monstrosity?
Infrastructure is another concern for McGarren. She says as it is now, residents are already dealing with parking and traffic. She can't imagine how it'll be improved with the addition of dense housing.
There's a lot of speeding going on here as people are rushing around looking for parking spaces, and it's hectic.
Although construction is still quite a ways ahead, North County Transit District and the property developers want to hear the community's concerns.
The developer, Toll Brothers Apartment Living, has been very receptive to those comments and thinking through how the project could be improved to create a better gathering space and really meet the needs of the community, and specifically be uniquely sited and consistent with the goals of the city of Oceanside.
Residents are invited to speak to the developers and the transit agency today at the Civic Center community rooms at 6:30 p.m. The next opportunity for the public to get more information on the project will be in the summer when the environmental impact report is released. Tanya Thorne, KPBS News.
A plan passed by House Republicans to raise the nation's debt limit comes with a lot of strings attached. President Biden has already said that he's not on board, and this afternoon the House passed a bill that raises the debt limit. It also includes a host of budget constraints and spending cuts. President Biden says the debt limit should be addressed on its own and should not be used as a negotiating tool. San Diego is taking one step toward addressing the housing shortage and homelessness. Late last night, the city council voted 8-1 to approve an ordinance to protect renters from eviction as long as they comply with their lease. Those protections will apply from the first day of the lease, with exceptions for short-term rentals. It also offers financial assistance to tenants whose lease is terminated through no fault of their own. Another part of the city's action plan on homelessness is the Safe Parking program. KPBS reporter Melissa May tells us how the newest site, which opened today, offers those who are homeless a safe option to transition into more stable housing.
Michael Johns and his family of 3 moved to San Diego for a job, but he says he was laid off, and that started the family's spiral into homelessness.
We take for granted the normal basic necessities of life, but when you don't have them anymore, you start to realize how quickly you miss them.
Thanks to a donation from the state of California, the Johns family will soon move into one of the 12 camper trailers on site. This lot in Claremont is the first to include trailers that come equipped with beds, bathrooms, and showers.
It's very hard to raise a 15-year-old in a vehicle. And so, we're grateful for the opportunity to be in a trailer and used as our home base, because it's a great transition to go from something like this back into housing.
This is the 4th safe parking lot funded by the city of San Diego. It will operate 24 hours a day, and along with the trailers, will have 15 parking spaces.
This program doesn't only provide a safe place for people to sleep at night, it is also a way to connect families with services that can help them get back on track. That includes housing navigation that can end their homelessness for good.
Jewish Family Service CEO Michael Hopkins says this program can help up to 233 households who are experiencing homelessness. He says more than 1/3 of their clients transition to stable housing.
The program has assisted more than 3,000 individuals since we began operation in January of 2018. And we look forward to continuing to work with the city.
All of the camper trailers are currently accounted for, but there is a waiting list. People who want to take part in the program can contact Jewish Family Service for more information. Visit jfssd.org/safeparking or call 858-637-3373. Melissa May, KPBS News.
Passenger complaints against U.S. airlines are on the rise. According to data released by the Department of Transportation this month, complaints more than doubled in 2022 from 2021, and that's nearly 5 times more than pre-pandemic numbers. The top grievance? Cancellations and delays, which accounted for about 1/3 of the complaints. Experts recommend passengers book morning flights as they tend to get canceled less frequently. Tomorrow begins a 2-day election in the San Diego Unified School District. High school students will choose 2 new members to represent them on the school board, the new student members. KPBS education reporter MG Perez tells us what else is at stake.
Leah Nepomuceno has earned her seat at the table. She was elected last year as one of the 2 new student trustees for the San Diego Unified School District. She will graduate from Scripps Ranch High School in June and go on to college. Tonight, she is offering support and advice for the student candidates looking to replace her.
Have your priorities, everything you do on the board, be backed by your values. Not only your personal values, but the values that encouraged you to run.
There are 5 student candidates running for 2 positions on the school board, 4 of them with video campaigns.
I have shown my passion and dedication towards teamwork and volunteering.
Do you want your school to preserve its advanced class program and also improve communication between the district and students?
In school, I participate in ASB, and I'm also my junior class president.
I just had a couple of clarifying questions.
The other current student trustee is running for re-election after serving this past year.
I, Matthew Guitariano, do solemnly swear that I will defend the Constitution of the United States.
All of these students are campaigning for positions on the board that do not pay and do not come with voting power. The job does come with plenty of unpaid work that requires knowing about issues and keeping up with the board's agenda, along with their schoolwork. The San Diego Unified Board of Education is time-consuming for the adult members, too, but each of them are paid about a $1,400 stipend each month. It would take a change in the law to pay students. In Sacramento at the state capitol, that change could come as early as this summer. Assembly Bill 275 would give school districts the option of paying student trustees. It would not require compensation or set a specific pay rate. That proposal is now with the state Senate for consideration.
This is real work, and students have real needs. And so we have to elevate that conversation and talk about adequately compensating young people for the service that they give.
Leah Nepomuceno's service is almost complete, and she is thoughtful about her future and where it will take her.
I love leading conversations, just listening to individuals and bringing out the best of them. So I love to moderate more discussions, hopefully with the aims of connecting each other and becoming a more, just creating more community.
And tonight she is well on her way. MG Perez, KPBS News.
There are now more options than ever for female student athletes in our region. The San Diego Unified School Board voted to officially recognize 5 new high school sports, and those include girls beach volleyball, flag football, and competitive and stunt cheering. With the decision, $500,000 will be added to the budget to pay coaches and expand these programs.
More funding equals more opportunity. You know, the programs now are limited. We'll be able to expand them, give them, you know, everything every other program has. Just offer the best of quality and the best opportunities for our girls.
Really to try something new. It just looked like a fun sport.
Girls cross country and wrestling were also added. They were both previously recognized by CIF, but not by the district. A new lawsuit could change how California fights wildfires. It claims that fire retardant drops in waterways violate the Clean Water Act because there is no permit. However, opponents of the lawsuit say it is a critical firefighting tool that could have catastrophic impacts if limited. Madison Keevy explains.
An aerial fire retardant drop last September. Firefighting that was credited for saving the town of Forest Hill during the mosquito fire.
Again, very strategic use of the resource, and many of those resources wouldn't be available if the federal air tankers were shut down.
A federal lawsuit filed by an Oregon-based group argues that dropping retardant in waterways without a permit does more environmental harm than good in fighting fires. The state's Forestry Association and a former director of CAL FIRE disagree.
And while we get into peak fire season later this summer, we would be lacking significant federal firefighting resources in the aviation community.
The impacts of that loss statewide outlined by the president and CEO of Cal Forest, who said, quote, "If this important tool is taken away at the federal level, the real-life consequences will be catastrophic, putting the lives of firefighters and residents of nearby communities at risk."
The lives at stake are, the most important. We only have 65,000 people in our county. However, they're all in sparse areas.
An investigation is underway into what started a fast-spreading brush fire in San Bernardino. The knob fire was first reported around 10 o'clock this morning near Lytle Creek and State Route 138. And according to CAL FIRE's latest update, the fire spread to 135 acres. No injuries were reported and no structures have been damaged. For generations, their fur was worn on collars and coats, and they've been portrayed as sly, conniving, wily characters in popular culture. But a rescue sanctuary in Santa Ysabel wants to show the world that foxes, although mischievous, have so much more to share, including their potentially life-saving skills. The stillness on this hilltop in Santa Ysabel doesn't last long, as the sounds of woodland creatures provide nature's concert. Their home is the Judith A. Bassett Canid Center, and the work being done here could be groundbreaking. Dog trainer Anita Cheeseman is not working with dogs today.
This is Dimitri.
She's training foxes to do nose work, detecting specific odors inside plastic boxes.
He made a U-turn because he smelled the odor, and now he found it, and he looks to me for his reward.
Cheeseman lives up to her name and provides a morsel of cheese with each positive odor detection. Unlike even the best trained dogs, these foxes have a unique talent that could one day save lives.
Good boy.
These are no ordinary foxes.
Sit.
These are Russian domesticated foxes.
Good job.
That was pretty good.
Amy and Dave Bassett, who own and run this conservation center, care for 14 of them, brought over from Russia 10 years ago.
And at that point, no one had ever brought one to the United States because they're in Russia, not only Russia, but Siberia, Russia.
The foxes were part of what is called the Russian Domesticated Fox Program, started by Soviet scientist Dmitry Belyaev in the 1950s. His goal was to recreate the evolution of wolf to domesticated pet dog, a process that took thousands of years. But with foxes, he wanted to do it in a matter of decades. The program has seen much success. The foxes evolved to behave more like dogs.
They'd breed only the most friendly ones, and then they do the same thing the next generation, year after year after year. And then they got found after about 10 generations or so, they were getting more friendly. The foxes were excited to see people. They'd come up and wag their tails.
Unlike a wild or fur farm bred fox, these domesticated foxes are not timid, do not keep a flight distance, and resemble the behavior of human-loving dogs. They're happy to see us and even enjoy being held, kissed, and treated like babies. So why is this type of nose detection work so important to the Bassets? The answer lies in the unique way foxes hunt.
You'll see them walking slowly in the snow and their ears are going all over the place. And also they stop and they hone in and they jump 6 feet in the air, spin around, hit the snow nose first, dig down 3 feet, come up with some kind of a rodent in their mouth. Their hearing is very well attuned to hearing the types of frequencies of things under the snow.
And while their noses are highly sensitive and their hearing extraordinary, it's something else that seemingly sets them apart as hunters. It's called magnetoreception, a trait whereby they can see the magnetic field of the earth and align their bodies for precision.
And with a pounce, he strikes.
So we said, well, that works perfect for avalanche rescue because someone's stuck under the snow, they're kind of moving around, and that's what they're designed to detect that.
If we can train them to do search and rescue work, to do avalanche rescue, boy, would people see them in a different light.
The Bassets say too many people see foxes as animals to be killed for their fur or for sport. They want foxes to be seen as creatures with a positive purpose. You can call it Fox PR.
If we actually had them seen as saviors and, going into, like, you can imagine an earthquake and somebody comes down off of the helicopter with their 6 foxes all strapped around them, and then boom, there's one here, there's one there, there's one there, there's one there, and showing people their skill set and finding things underneath the ground, I think, it would really give them a different perspective of them.
But first, there are biological and geopolitical challenges. The Russian program was partially funded by the NIH, but since the invasion of Ukraine, those ties have been cut. This means, at least for now, no more foxes can be imported into the United States.
So there are no other populations of these foxes, so if they go extinct there, they're extinct.
The Bassets say the foxes are also considered a source of pride, and their genetics intellectual property of the Russian government. So each one is sterilized to discourage any breeding outside of the Russian program, which is still active today. But even through generations of domestication, one little genetic hurdle remains.
Bad girl.
No, you're not going to do that. It's scary. Lena.
No, you can't bite that one.
The fox's curious and mischievous nature stands true.
Yes, I know, guys. You've never eaten before in your life.
And since they don't have the same recall as dogs, the Bassets say releasing them to rescue people at this point is a dicey proposition.
Yeah, they may run and find your people, but then they're going to go, okay, well, now we're going to go look for some mice. So see you later. So it's kind of like one rescue, one fox kind of a deal.
The key, he says, is to train them as young pups. But it remains to be seen if the Bassets will get access to pups anytime soon. Even so, they're holding out hope that we could one day see these animals saving human lives.
People say you can't teach a fox to do search and rescues. We say, just watch us. And it may not happen today, it may not happen tomorrow, but we haven't given up on it.
Good girl. Here's your treat. There you go.
And the Bassets added that owning a pet fox is illegal in most states, including here in California.
Well, if you're hoping for some warmer air, I think you'll like the forecast here going forward the next couple of days. We'll also be talking about less morning clouds, and it's a dry stretch of weather will be continuing under 0.2 of an inch of precipitation so far for the month of April. We'll get to those historical averages coming up. Patchy low clouds again for tonight will drop back down into the upper 50s, perhaps not as widespread as what we've seen the last couple of nights, but still looking at some cloudiness around Oceanside. Chula Vista drops down to 56, Borrego Springs mid-60s, Ramona down to 50 will match that mark toward Mount Laguna. And over the interior, some sunshine. Look at the heat building and bubbling up around Borrego Springs on the brink of the century mark for the afternoon. 81 Ramona, 71 Chula Vista, and 70 into San Diego. So just down below that historical average. And notice on Futurecast, whereas the last couple of nights into the early morning you saw more cloudiness, I think there'll still be some, but perhaps not quite to the extent that we have recently observed. Speaking of observations, here's just some perspective for those historical average rainfall amounts I mentioned. Here in the month of April, it's been low, just over 1/10 of an inch. So again, you look at the number, 0.65, right around 18% of the historical average for the month thus far. Of course, we had a lot of rain back in the month of March. So let's go forward here with our forecast. Here comes the warming trend toward the coast, along with some sunshine on the brink of 80 for the afternoon. How about that? We will lose some ground, though, later on this weekend into next week with 60s making a return. Similar situation. We're climbing the next couple of days over the interior valleys, peaking on Saturday. That'll be a hot one. And then we start to drop as we head our way into early next week. Meanwhile, 60s the next several days over the mountains with mostly sunny skies, wind and cooler air set to move in by early next week, and lots of heat over the next several days toward the desert. Upper 90s on tap, lots of sunshine, not as hot as we go into Monday. For KPBS News, I'm meteorologist Justin Povick.
La Jolla Playhouse's Without Walls Festival kicks off tomorrow. The 4-day event showcases immersive and sight-inspired dance, music, and theater by local, national, and international artists. KPBS arts reporter Beth Accomando has this preview.
Prepare to be wowed as the Rady Shell hosts La Jolla Playhouse's Without Walls or WOW Festival.
I mean, the festival as a whole takes over the Rady Shell area. Our show is unique in that we are taking people away from that lively, exciting environment.
Patrick Mueller is the artistic director of Control Group Productions and the director of The End, which will take audiences on a bus tour of San Diego's climate future.
I am sitting in our apocalypse renovated school bus at one of our sites. I probably shouldn't name it because part of the fun of the show is showing up to places that you may know and you may not. And the route that you took there got you so lost that you're surprised that you showed up there, whether you recognize it or not.
And that's what the WOW Festival is all about, taking you on an unexpected journey to experience theater in an exciting new way.
Immersive, interactive, site-based, and audience mobile experiences all help us into a place of deeper empathy, transformational impact.
The WOW Festival allows us to
break out of the traditional boundaries of the theater. So we get our audiences up and moving.
Maria Patrice Amen is co-artistic director of Tuyo Theater, which is presenting Los Cuatro Milpas, a love letter to the oldest Mexican restaurant in San Diego.
In site-specific or immersive theater, the audience is a part of the storytelling. They are a character in your show. They are collaborative with you in generating the script. Our actors have their script and they have their dialogue, but there is a responsiveness. So when the audience says something to the actors have to improv and they have to think on their feet and respond in real time to the audiences.
And audiences can expect to provide their own kind of improv when preparing for the end.
The audience will be recruited to take different sort of job assignments during the show with tasks that help us on our journey. And the basic conceit is that passengers have booked a one-way ticket to the refuge because they realize the climate cliff is imminent and it's time to run for cover. And so the bus is trying to get us all there.
Whatever the means, WOW is all about engaging the audience.
I find that experiences that interact with me and that surround me, I can relate to in a different way. We're so used to looking through screens, and standard theater is basically that. It's a big rectangle frame that you look through to see the action that you are excluded from. And so I think there's just a fundamental value to being part of the experience you are having.
La Jolla Playhouse's WOW Festival runs Thursday through Sunday at the Rady Shell at Jacobs Park. All shows are free of charge, but you are encouraged to make reservations. Beth Accomando, KPBS News.
And here's a look at what we're working on for tomorrow in the KPBS newsroom. NPR's Morning Edition will focus on a string of economic warning signs as major companies announce more layoffs this week. And KPBS's own gardening guru, Nan Sterman, joins tomorrow's Midday Edition to answer questions from our audience. And you can find tonight's stories on our website, kpbs.org. Thanks for joining us. I'm Maya Trabulsi. Good night.
Major funding for KPBS Evening Edition has been made possible in part by Bill Howe Family of Companies, providing San Diego with plumbing, heating and air, restoration, flood and remodeling services for over 40 years. Call 1-800-BILL-HOWE or visit billhowe.com. And by the Conrad Prebys Foundation, Darlene Marco Shiley, and by the following. By viewers like you. Thank you.